Hi, everybody. Welcome to the swamp.
Hello. Hello.
Please welcome my lovely guest, Carolyn and Peter Booker, um,
Hi.
Hi.
ghost
Hello.
hunters, paranormal people extraordinaire. Um, I don't know if anybody caught the shows they did with uh, Helen Irish Granny and Allie from Heart and Soul Connected, but very colorful and exciting life they've lived. So, which is fantastic. I am big time into the paranormal, always have been, but I think that's because of where I've grown up. I mean, I'm kind of in the middle of it all. You can't walk down the street without running into a spirit or a ghost
Yeah.
of some kind. They're all over the place. Um, so for those that don't know you yet, um, where did you meet? How did you meet?
Mhm.
And begin this wonderful journey called life together.
Yeah. Well, we met in London, and I was in the last year of my service in the army, and Carolyn, through a mutual friend, came to the barracks where I was, and I was in the Coldstream Guards band. So we're right next to Buckingham Palace. And every year in June, there's the parade for the sovereign called the
Uh-huh.
Troop in the Colour. Well, they sell or give away tickets. It's for Army benevolent funds, but they give tickets away
Right.
for this. Carolyn came to pick some up from the barracks, and a friend of mine who was a secretary at the time met Carolyn. Thought, oh, I think Peter would like to meet her. Well, I said no, it's quite all right. I don't want to get involved. Um, I've been married. I've been divorced for about 7 years by then, and they kept on and on and on about my meeting Carol. Well, Carol came back a second and then a third time to pick
Well,
up
the
other
second time,
tickets.
the second time, they pulled out a picture and said, "Would you like to
Uh-huh.
meet
Yeah,
him?"
yeah. So
Yeah.
eventually, this third time, I got to meet Carolyn, and we were talking, and all of a sudden they all disappeared. They said, "Oh, look, we got to go home. You've seen the time." Peter, why don't you take her out for a coffee? I did, and the rest is history. We've been together ever since.
That's
Now, 20 years.
lovely.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
how I met my late husband was I worked with his roommate. And
Hmm.
so we just kind of kept getting thrown together. He would come by I worked at a gas station U-Haul place. And I was the car wash girl. I would wash and wax the cars by hand. A lot of lawyers and doctors and stuff would come in with their fancy cars and they'd want an extra good. They didn't want to just run through the little machine thing. They wanted somebody to actually wash and wax their cars. And that was me. And so I got to know him through the roommate that I worked with because he was always coming by the shop, to get gas or whatnot. And we became friends. And then after a few months, we both were like, okay, there's more to this than friendship. And uh 20 some odd years later and one child later, and he left, passed away. And so um my sisters-in-law don't understand why I've never remarried. They're like, why aren't you dating? Why aren't you married? I'm like, been married, thank you. I don't need to do that again. And
I don't want to wash anybody's clothes. I clean,
yeah, it's like, I'm
cook.
enjoying just being me because by that
Hmm.
point our son was grown on his own. And so it was time for Sherry to figure out who she was and what she wanted to do with her life. And it's been interesting ever since. I tried the dating thing for about 6 months, and then I was like, okay, yeah, I've had enough of that. So I tell people now, I said, if spirit means for me to have someone else in my life, they will bring them to my front door with a big sign that says, "Here I am." And
Yeah.
I said, other than that, I'm not looking. Um, but we've got quite a few people that have popped in the chat so far. We've got Kathy G. She was first on the mark. And Sylvia and Christine and Sandy and Jill. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm sure most of you probably know who Carolyn and Peter are. But if you don't and you came in a little late, they do kind of ghost hunting kind of stuff, paranormal stuff. Carolyn, I know you. Do you see spirits or do you just hear them?
I can see them, yeah. Not always.
Right.
I hear them. I feel them. I have visions of things that are going to take place, or I can read, if someone's in a situation, I can read what's in their house and
Right.
that type.
Oh, cool. All right. And I know when I started finally opened the door back up to my gifts and started back out, I would just suddenly know something. And then I started hearing them. They would come talk in my ear and I'd be like, leave me alone. And they didn't. I don't see them yet. So I figure, okay, that's probably coming eventually. I'm going to look up and they're going to be standing there looking at me like, okay, I'm
Not a
here.
bad thing.
The visions just started for me about 2 months ago. I started having visions, which kind of freaked me out. I wasn't expecting it. And that was my mother's gift, was visions. She would get visions of people dying. Like if she saw somebody and they were due to be gone in a couple of days, she'd have a vision of it. And it really freaked her out to the point that she didn't like to talk about it, and I found out about it simply because I overheard her and her sister talking about it one time. And my aunt was also psychic, but all the women in our family have the gift, as they called it. But I don't think any of us had the same gift. It's all a little different, or enough variation that we aren't boring if we're all in a room together. Of course, they're all gone now. I'm the only one here still. So, but it's very interesting when that happens. It's, to try to determine, is this my imagination or am I really being told something? It's, now, do you have control over it? Or does it just happen when it happens?
It just is there. Suddenly, I can be watching a television program and I can actually read the program.
Yeah.
Oh, there's somebody behind.
Yeah, this is going to happen next.
Yeah, or they're gonna say this, or I've never heard of anybody reading a television before, but
I pick up on what's coming before it happens. So I get that.
As you said about reading people, Carolyn can quite often see how they are going to pass, and of course it's not a nice thing to know.
No, it's not.
You don't tell anybody, do you?
I've only had that happen to me once, and I didn't say anything because it was like I'm not going there. It's like that's their journey to walk, and I'm not going to change it.
Not no.
But it is kind of freaky when it happens. So
yeah. Now, Sherry, we were watching.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Sherry. We were watching TV one day, and we had a haunting. It was a program about England. It's just outside Dover. There's some very old earthworks that have been there since Neolithic times, and there's something really nasty there that's been trapped. Carolyn could pick it up when she was watching this program. They were going down in the tunnels, doing the usual ghost hunter thing.
No, don't go there. No.
Yeah, and whilst we were watching it, Carolyn was getting quite intense with this thing. And all of a sudden, she felt something come out of the screen to her and scratch her down the arm. And right in front of my eyes, I could see these wheels on her arm opening up.
Yeah.
3 claw marks all the way down. So we immediately switched it off and said a few words of prayer, and they eventually went. But whatever this thing was, even though it has been recorded probably a couple of years before, Carolyn picked it up, and this thing knew that she was there. How this
Yeah.
thing works, I'm not sure. It's bizarre.
Yeah. I've not been scratched or anything, but I've had experiences going back in my younger years, um, before I really accepted the fact that I had psychic abilities, where I could walk into somebody's house and it would be like, nope, 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 not staying here. I know
Mhm.
when my late husband and I were first together, we'd been married about a year or two, I guess, and he had a new coworker, a young guy and his wife, and they invited us to come over for like to play cards or a card game or something, to their house after work one night. And so we were like, yeah, okay, cool, we'll be there. And when we pulled into the driveway, I couldn't get out of the car. I was like, I'm not going in that house. And of course, my husband did not believe in this stuff at all. Now he does. As he tells me quite frequently, okay, you were right, I was wrong. It's like, yeah, that's a bitter pill to swallow, huh? But at the time, he was furious with me because I refused to get out of the car. I was like, I cannot go in the house. I just can't. And I couldn't
No.
explain it to him. And I said, you're going to have to take me home and you can come back and hang out, do whatever you want. But no, I'm getting physically ill right now. You got to take me home. And so he went up, told the guy, look, she's getting sick. I'm taking her home. I'll be back. About a week later, they came to our house. And the wife was like, I'm so glad you had that reaction. She said, because that's how I feel whenever I'm in my house. She said, I don't like being in there by myself. Like when her husband's at work, she goes elsewhere or she has friends come over. So she's not alone in the house.
Mhm.
And she was like, I'll walk in the kitchen and find all the burners on, gas stove with a pilot light blew out. So it's just the gas in the room. And then she has to like open the door to the
Ooh.
windows. And so whatever was in there was not good. And
Mm-mm.
and she was like, thank you so much for saying something. She said, now I don't feel crazy. And I said, yeah, whatever's in there is not good and y'all need to move before it hurts you. And they
Mm.
did. They moved to another house within a couple of
Did it
months.
stay there, Sherry?
Yeah,
The
as
entity
far as I
stayed in
know,
there?
the energy stayed there. It didn't follow them to the new place. Um, at that time, I knew I wasn't real good friends with her, but I was an acquaintance with her. A young girl that lived in the same apartment complex as me, and she was a witch, and she flat let everybody know that she was a witch, and you could pay her to cast spells and all kinds of stuff for you.
Mm.
And I told her about it, and she was like, bring them this stone, bring them this, and tell them to bring it to their new place and whatnot. And so I did. And so when they moved, the energy didn't follow. So I'm pretty sure that whatever she gave me to give them was some kind of a talisman to keep that away. And
Mm.
but that's when it first started to realize I'd even thought about that in years. Wow. Um, I remember she had one blue and one green eye. It was so wild to look at that girl, the witch, the girl that was the witch.
Mhm.
She had different colored eyes, and she was always wanting me to come to a coven meeting with her. And of course, my late husband was like, absolutely not. That's not, yeah, he freaked out about it. So I was like, yeah, no, I guess I'll pass. Um, I wish now I would have gone, but I guess I wasn't quite ready for it yet. Um, because
Yeah,
now
it's
I hang out with more
all
witches
timing.
than anybody else. So it's kind of funny.
Well, they're not all bad. I mean,
No, absolutely not.
I mean, Bloody Mary in Louisiana, she's not all
No,
bad.
I mean, you've got all kinds of entities, I guess you could say, down here that most of them are just lost. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they just feel confused and lost. Like they don't understand why things happen the way they happen. You got a lot of voodoo down here, which
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately most people had turned into something evil,
It's
whereas
a
the original
religion.
voodoo, yeah, the original voodoo was meant as a healing,
Mm-hmm.
positive healing for people. And but Hollywood kind of took that and ran with it in the other direction. And so a lot of
Yeah.
people have that misconstrued. Um,
Mm.
but I mean, it's most buildings down here I go in and yeah, I can feel if something's there. And which used to be really unnerving. Now I don't even really notice it that much. The
You're
building
going,
I work
okay.
in, yeah, it's like, oh, y'all are here. Okay, well, I'm working,
Okay.
so go away for now.
You don't
The
like
building that
investigate.
I work in, where my office is, was actually built on top of a Native American burial ground. And
Ooh.
so um, little weird things that happen all the time. I know when I kind of opened this door back up, I went over one weekend when nobody was there, and I kind of went through with my sage, even though we're not supposed to burn anything in the building. And I just kind of like walked around, just kind of like, okay, all the, if you're bad, you got to go. If you're good, you can stay. But when you be happier if you crossed over, kind of thing. And so it's a lighter atmosphere in there now than it used to be. So it makes it a little bit better to sit and work there because our building is actually fairly new. It's like under 20 years old. Um, but when I found out it was built on top of a burial ground, I was like, well, no wonder I'm picking all this stuff up. Now it makes sense. And let's see here. I don't have any questions yet, but Jill said that some souls, because of their religion, are afraid to go into the light. Um, I think that's true.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think
Yeah.
some people don't want to let go of living. It's like they don't want to let go of this world and move
What
on.
are they? Yeah.
Or they're afraid of what they're going to face when they do go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
But the thing is that they need to know is that they're going to have to explain themselves, and depending on if they have problems or not, they'll have to go into a medical unit to be healed. And that
right.
can take a while. But
They're all accepted over there. It's no matter what they do, they're accepted. Um, there may be some retribution for some that are, out now evil, but those very often will remain earthbound because of that fear of, retribution.
Right. And then there are places that are like just place memories. It's
mm-hmm,
not
Mm-hmm.
like an active haunting. It's just
no,
whatever happened just keeps replaying like on a loop. Like
Stonewall.
Yeah.
civil war sites, where big battles
Mm-hmm.
were fought. And you can go and actually see it taking place or smell it or hear it. But it's not like an active haunting. It's just a
Uh,
place memory that just keeps replaying it over and over.
Anniversary thing. Yeah.
Yeah, or it's called Stonewall.
Mm-hmm.
Because the ground, certain elements of the ground hold on to it, and
Yeah.
They're not
And I,
actually there.
No, they're
It's
not
like a
physically there.
tape machine.
right, yeah, it's like a tape on loop, set
Yeah.
on a loop, just over and over and over, especially
Hmm.
areas where large quantities of blood are spilled into the ground. That
Hmm.
seems to change the
Sherry,
chemical makeup, I guess, of the ground around you.
it does.
Uh,
Sherry, where we live here, there was a battle in the Civil War fought in this area. And I was coming home one night down a local road with the sunset behind me showing on the trees. It was a beautiful, beautiful evening.
yeah,
And all of a sudden, not only in my mind's eye, but I physically could see where in the line of the trees on the side of the road, I saw a whole line of Union skirmish line going through the trees.
yeah,
It only lasted for a split second. It was in vivid color. It was fantastic. And oh, wow. So anything I see, I tell Carol, and I told her about this, and she came up with a name of the young man, or one of the young men that I'd seen. That his life was taken,
yeah,
and he died young. I mean, God bless him, he was probably not even in his late teens. And but if I see things and I mention it to Carolyn, quite often she'll come up with a name.
yeah,
So who he was, where he was from, the age. Fascinating. Of course, every time I've come down that road since, I've been looking for it to happen. It never has.
It
yeah,
won't.
yeah.
It's
It's
just
like
right.
that down here. I mean, there's a lot of places you can go where out of the corner of your eye, you'll, see movement, you'll see things. There have been times I've been someplace and have heard like cannon fodder, the sound that it makes
Hmm.
when they would shoot a cannon and whatnot, and smell it. I mean, there are a lot of times I could be somewhere inside or outside, and the smell of sulfur from like
Oh
the
yeah,
striking of a match,
yeah, the
that
black bear.
unique smell that comes off of that. It's like, whoa, it can really be strong. Um, and when you don't accept that that is a reality, it can be really kind of freaky for people. Um, I hear a lot of people that they don't like to go here, they don't like to go there, but they don't know why. And I'm like, because you're picking up on the energy that's there. But um, oh, Christine, oh, how interesting, Christine. Um, yeah, uh, I
Oh,
think we get a lot Civil War, especially on the East Coast
Mhm.
and down south, because
hmm.
it was so concentrated in this area for the Civil War that I don't think it really matters where you go up and down the seaboard. On the East Coast, you're going to pick it up. Um, and further north, I think you also pick up more on uh, uh, the Revolutionary War stuff.
Yeah, we
Um,
have that. Yeah.
And the Indian Wars as well.
We
yeah,
went out to where was the water?
Oh, we were at Yorktown.
We were in
Yeah,
Yorktown.
Yorktown, where the Cornwallis surrendered at the Battle of Yorktown in the Revolutionary War. And we parked up by the monument on top of the hill that looks over into the river. And Carolyn, she said, "Wow, look at that." Okay, what are you looking at? And she said, "You can't see it." No, what are you looking at? She said, "It's a battleship. It was a huge frigate or bigger um, 18th century vessel that was moored in the river. They were running out the guns, and she could see all the people on the deck going to and fro, saw the cannons firing, and that it was a representation of what had happened during the Battle of Yorktown. The British fleet had been trapped out in Chesapeake Bay. They were unable to get in to relieve Cornwallis. So the French came right up close and they were bombarding from the river. And then, of course, the American French
Yeah,
armies
America would
allowed.
not be America if it hadn't been for the help from the French.
Well, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
Yeah.
That's how it went. But Carolyn, she was watching this and explaining to me what she was seeing for about a good 20 minutes. She could hear the gunfire. She could see all the action happening on the deck. She could see men being hit as well, I suppose, by return fire. So phenomenal, you know. And I couldn't see a thing.
yeah.
A thing.
I know when my son was still in the Navy, when he finally got his papers of where he was being assigned, it was Pearl Harbor in Honolulu. Of course, my reaction was, hot damn, mama's going to Hawaii, which I got to go for a week.
Nice.
And he took me to the Arizona Memorial when I went out. And you take a boat ride out into the channel where the ship is sunk. And it's about 40 feet down, you know, it's not that deep, but you can still see little bubbles of oil still to this day are still coming up. You know, you can look over they've got like a floating bridgeway that spans the width of the ship. So you can walk and you can look over the rail and look down and you can see the ship below you. Um, I was really excited about going to see it, and we took the boat out. And when we got there, when we got off the boat and onto the little floating bridge, I mean, the minute I stepped foot on it, I felt like I was drowning. I could not catch my breath. And the whole time it was like a 20, 30-minute, trip because they take you out and bring you back. And there was a boat full of people, so there was a bunch of us around. But it was very difficult because I literally felt like I was drowning the whole time I was there. I could feel the fear that they were feeling, knowing that they can't get out and they're stuck. They're just gonna drown. There's nothing they can do. And that's a really terrifying feeling.
Yeah, and all the names on that back wall
Yeah,
of
exactly.
everybody that went down. Yeah, I've been on it.
Yeah, and
On
now
just,
they have a separate wall where they have those men that survived when they die. They can have their ashes interred into the ship. They do like a big ceremony a couple of times a year where they'll make a big production out of taking the specially made urns and they go bring them down and put them into the ship so that they're with their shipmates, which to me is just, what a statement that makes. But that's where they want to spend their eternity with is their shipmates. And so that's
there's
like a separate
one
wall.
room on the Arizona, which during the blast sealed completely. And the lieutenant, I think he's a lieutenant, is sitting at his desk. He's leaning over his desk, and he's just like he was in life because he's hermetically sealed in that room, and they know the minute they open it that he's just going to go to ashes. But they go up to the window and check every once in a while, to look, and he's still sitting there in his chair.
Yeah.
It's amazing. But I went on December 8th, which was when I went, it was the 50th anniversary. And all these beautiful wreaths and everything. And there was, one from Japan. And I wanted to take that wreath and throw it in the water so bad. I was like, oh no, not here. My late husband said, don't you do it. That to me, that's an insult. You can say you're sorry as many times as you don't like, but you still did it.
Oh yeah. It's I know when the movie came out oh God, it's been a long time ago now. Um, I can't remember now what the name of the movie was. It's with Ben Affleck and all of them, and it was about the bombing of Pearl Harbor. Pearl, I think was the name of the movie. And there's one scene where one of the ships is sinking, and there's like a grill on the deck, and it's all these fingers coming up through this grill, and they can't
Mm.
get the thing off to get them out. And it's like those trying to get them out know that they can't get them out. And the way, of course, they did in the movie was, they had them calling for their mom and stuff. And it was like the first time I saw that movie, it flashed in my brain. It was like, that's more accurate than they even
Mhm.
realized, because a lot of those men were just boys in a lot of respects. And they were calling for their mom. And as a mom, that just, when my son went into the Navy, I couldn't watch that movie anymore.
Mm-mm.
I couldn't, especially when he was on deployment. And everybody was always like, "Oh yeah, but he's safe. He's on a ship. He's not going to get shot at." I said, "Yeah, but he's in the middle of the ocean, and if they attack, they're going to
It's
sink
like
the ship. And then where the
2
hell is
miles
he
of
going
ocean
to go?"
below him. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like there's I said it's worse because then they all go down. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
um,
Well,
yeah,
that's
I know.
one of the reasons they have this Sullivan Law. Have you heard of the Sullivan Law?
Uh-uh.
There were five brothers that were all on the same ship, and they all got
Oh,
killed. And now families can't serve
together. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
together.
didn't know that's what it was called, but I know the story.
That was their last name, Sullivan. Yeah.
Okay. Um, I know there was they did a movie Saving Private Ryan where
Mm-hmm.
it was they had to go find the last surviving brother because the other brothers had died, to just ship him home and so that they didn't all get killed. And and yeah, I know because of that now that family can't. I mean, they may serve, but they can't serve on the
On the
same
same
ship
ship.
or
Yeah.
in the same service or um
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I know yeah, my family's they've all served one branch or another. So um and I know my late husband was in the Navy and then my son was in the Navy. So
My sister and myself have been in the Army during Vietnam.
okay, yeah, my husband that's when my husband was he was in the
Mm-hmm.
army he was in the Navy, excuse me, during Vietnam. Um
Mm.
but he was kind of on the tail end of it. So he never got sent over because it kind of stopped at that point. And so they weren't sending new troops. And now one of his brothers was a medic on one of the hospital ships. And his job was to go with a, a collection crew. And they would row to shore and pick up all the body bags, bring them back to the ship, where then they had to try to figure out whose foot goes with whose hand goes with which body with
Mm-hmm.
trying to piece them back together and put the right person all together in one bag. And I know he still has a hard time
Oh
dealing with
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think a lot of people realize just how long you can suffer from what you experience in battle. Whether if you were actually fighting or just kind of on the outskirts, you're still dealing with all the trauma that's going on around you. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like so my son served for 5 years. It's been over 15 years now since he got out, and he still battles PTSD and
Mm-hmm.
has a hard time with stuff. It's something we've learned to deal with, to understand and deal with, but it can be very uh debilitating, I guess.
Yeah,
I
it
think
can
the
be.
same is true for those of us who pick up on the energies
Mm-hmm.
after the fact. I mean, I've met
Well, I
psychics.
think, yeah, because a lot of people don't understand, what they're seeing or what they're hearing or feeling, or
Yeah,
they don't understand it at all. They just know they're traumatized by something, and until they
right.
learn, that they're either not going to hurt them or how to get rid of them, or you know, they can be very traumatized.
Yeah, exactly. Um, let's see. Anna had put something in about her grandmother waited for her father to pass. And yeah, I've had that. I've heard of similar. I've not had that particular type of thing happen to me, but I get it. Kind of, I've heard a lot of people talk about it. Um, and then
Sounds like
Jill
he's trying
added,
to get their attention.
yeah, exactly. They're wanting to get attention. Um, I know both of my grandfathers fought in World War II. One was Army in Europe, one was Navy Pacific, and neither one of them would ever discuss it. They refused to discuss what they saw and
Most
heard.
of most of them
Yeah,
won't. Yeah.
and I mean, my son was over into the Persian Gulf when he was in. He's told me a few things that have happened while he was there, but most of it he can't discuss it.
Mm-mm.
Just he can't deal with it. And so I'm
Yeah.
like, don't worry about it. When you need to talk about it, you will.
Mm.
Now, Jill put this in uh, part of an ongoing conversation we were having earlier, and I was just late sticking her thing up. Um, yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on I always felt that your experience when you die, when you get to the other side, what you experience happening is going to be kind of based on what you believed. It's like you've believed a certain thing is going to happen, so spirit makes sure that's what you see
Well,
when you get there. To a point. Um, what do y'all think?
it- well, I've had an NDE, and mine, you know, uh, not different, but um, uh, I was having a miscarriage and I lost my daughter. And I know it was a little girl because I had hold of her hand and I was taking her, and I had instant knowledge of everything that has happened since the beginning of time. Even the stupidest little questions that I thought, you know, you think, well, why did you answer that? I mean, that was a waste of time, you know. But you you see this little tiny dot of gold. It's white and gold, and it gets bigger and bigger as you're not walking, but you're moving along through this dark tunnel light. And at the end, uh, to me, the end looked like the birth canal, to where you're you're going, you're birthing up in up in heaven. You're actually being born. Your spirit's being reborn in heaven.
That
And
makes
but
sense.
they said to me, well, they said to my daughter, you can come forward. And then to me, they said, but you have to go back. We're not finished with you yet. And boom, I woke up.
Yeah,
And the doctors and nurses were, doing their thing. But it was like, I had perfect knowledge and I didn't get to bring it back.
Yeah, that I think would be the most upsetting thing for me would be to get there, get a glimpse of all that is, and then have to come back and I can't remember it, or I can't
Mm,
remember it fully. It would be like, why can't I bring the knowledge back with me? Well,
yeah,
we
it
weren't
was
ready
like,
for that yet. So,
yeah, it was like being in the Akashic records. You know everything.
yeah,
And all of a sudden it's gone. I don't want it to go.
yeah. Val, Dragonfly Crystals, Val did an Akashic Records reading on me about a month ago. That was just, it was just uncanny how accurate the stuff that she was picking up, things that I hadn't even remembered that had happened eons ago. It seems like you're like, oh yeah, oh God, I remember that. It's like, how would you get that? But that's because all knowledge is there. So um,
Hmm.
it could be kind of it can be kind of wild and kind of crazy at the same time. See, Lori had a question of sorts. She wanted to know if
Yes,
loving energies, yeah,
yes. They're
absolutely.
still being called the ones that have passed at, or are passing. They're being called up. Yeah. I see it almost on a daily basis of all these souls going out. Yeah, it's amazing. But
Yeah, I've
it's
not
it.
seen it, but I've felt it when I've been in certain places, and
Mm-hmm.
um, I mean, literally the hair stands up on your skin. It's
Mm,
the energy is so charged.
yeah.
Um,
This is
right,
all over the world, though. This is
yeah,
it's like the what I call it the gathering. He's, they're being
absolutely.
gathered. Those that have unfinished business. Well, we'll finish it up here. You know, it- any problems that you have are taken care of up there. We'll take care of that problem. You know,
Right, right,
and
right.
you know, your family doesn't want you to go. They don't want to let go of you. Well, they're going to have to let go of you because you're coming with us. And off they go.
Um, I know the movie Ghost, a lot of people have talked about their depiction of where you're going when you die was very when I watched the movie the first time I thought that's what happens. It just rang really true for me. Um but yeah, it's really amazing when you're in an area where this is happening. Someone is passing. I worked in the medical field for over 30 years. So
Mm,
I got to experience a lot of really weird stuff. Um, but when it's, I guess, when it's such a positive thing happening, the feeling you get with it is almost euphoric, like a celebration. Oh, dude, you're finally
but
getting there, And
normally a family member will come and get them, and they could be there 2 or 3 days waiting. But that family, and they can see that family member. They know
oh,
they're going.
absolutely, absolutely. Um,
Yeah.
I know my mother. She had severe dementia, and that's what she passed from. And at last year she was alive, she would suddenly have conversations with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
She couldn't have a conversation with us. She couldn't string two words together that made sense. but she would start talking to somebody else that would be there. And I'd be like, well, Mama, who are you talking to? She'd be like, well, don't you see Cindy sitting right there? I'm talking to her. Go away. I'd be like, oh, okay. Sorry to interrupt you. Carry on, But yeah, she would see people that had already passed. I think the most profound thing that ever happened to me through my mom was about 2 weeks before she had a massive seizure, which put her in a hospital, which put her into hospice care, into a unit, a lockdown unit. Um, she was really pretty gone by this point, and she was having one of her weepy days where she would just sit and cry all day. She didn't know why she was crying. She didn't know what was upsetting. And of course, it was hard on us because we couldn't make her feel better because I don't know why she's crying either. And I finally got her to lay down on the sofa and take a little nap. And I was sitting at a little table next to the sofa with my computer. And she woke up about 30 minutes later. And I remember I turned around in my chair and said, well, do you feel better? And she turned her head and she looked at me. And it wasn't my mother at that stage. It was my mother before. I could see it in her eyes. She was like fully there. And she just looked at me and she said, I don't want to be like this anymore. And then boom, she was gone. She was right back to her dementia state. But it hit me like a ton of bricks. It was in that moment that I knew they are a part of them somewhere deep inside is aware of what's going on. Patients that go through the dementia and Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and all that kind of stuff where it robs you of your memories. They're in there somewhere and they know it and they don't like it.
My
But
father
yeah,
had dementia, but he knew he always knew who we were. He wasn't that bad, but towards the end he was. And my mother was on one side of the bed, I was on the other, and we were trading off feeding him the
yeah,
sorbet that they give.
yeah,
And I remember him looking at my mother, clear eyes, as his eyes normally were. They were completely normal. And he looked at my mom and he said, I love you. And gone. He was right back
yeah.
in.
Yeah, it's like it takes so much of their energy to have that little 30-second,
That little moment of,
that
but
moment
his
to
eyes
push
were so
out.
blue that that
Yeah,
you knew
that's
he was
what clicked
there.
it for me. Yeah, when my mom, when she turned her head and looked at me, the second she looked at me, I knew that that was my mama.
Mm-hmm.
That was my mom, not this shell that had been there before. And
Mm-hmm.
it was very breathtaking. And I know she would probably about a year and a half before she died. She got to where she didn't know who we were. We were just strangers to her. She knew we loved her and she knew we took care of her, but she didn't know who we were. But I would be in the room and she would be asking for me. I want Sherry. I'd be like, Mom, I'm right here. No, not you. I want my daughter, Sherry. And I'd have to get up and I'd have to leave the room, count to 10, come back in and say, okay, Mom, what you need? And then I was the right Sherry. But I would have to physically leave the room and then come back in
Yeah.
because otherwise I wasn't the right person.
Mm-hmm.
And which is kind of wild when you think about it. Um, but now when y'all lived when you lived in England, did you
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of the same experiences like you do in Virginia here?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Hampton Court. I saw Henry VIII, Catherine Howard, Anne Boleyn. And I thought, Catherine Howard, it was in what is known as the Haunted Gallery. I didn't know It was the
Yeah.
hot, and it was a really burning hot day, and I was as cold as ice, like I had an air conditioner on me. And this woman came running out of this doorway, and these two soldiers were chasing her. And she went up to the chapel and she was banging on the door. Henry, sire, I need to speak with you. Sire, I need, And I thought, oh, reenactment,
Yeah.
And the guys took her and dragged her off. And our guide got to the chapel door because at that time he was explaining this painting, Henry VIII and the family. He got to the door and he said, "This is where Catherine Howard banged on the door trying to get Henry's attention."
Yeah.
And I thought, uh-oh, that wasn't a reenactor. That was
I didn't see
really,
a thing. And the place was packed.
oh yeah.
The place was packed. There was nobody in costume.
Wow.
So it just
How
happened,
cool is that? Now, Peter, of course, you're from England, born there, I'm assuming. And
Mhm.
did you have experiences before you met Carolyn?
I
Or did
did.
your experiences start happening after you met Carolyn?
Well, more so after. Yeah, very much so after. And as I say, if I saw something, I mentioned it to Carol, she would come up sometimes with names, certain dates, what they were doing there, how they come to pass, lots of detail. But I'd seen things from a very early age. I was a twin, and my twin brother died at birth. And
Oh, okay.
I've seen him a few times over the years. He's always been a similar age as myself, sort of growing up. And I remember as a very young child having what you would call an imaginary friend. This little boy used to sit right next to my bed, and I used to talk to him. Well, it was my brother that had passed, and I'd seen him a couple of times, as I say, at different points. Carol saw him. Our house where we were living, I was on tour with the band. I was in Japan, and she saw me walk past the window. I mean, most people would be, pretty upset about that because you think, oh no, something's happened to Peter. No, it wasn't. It was my brother.
Oh, how
He was
cool.
never named, but we seem to think that his name was probably John. Because I'm Peter John, so chances are his name was John. But he was never baptized.
Was he the older twin or the younger twin?
No idea. Don't know.
His
Oh,
parents never really talked about it.
yeah.
I must admit, I never really asked too much. I didn't probe about it, and both have now passed now. So
Yeah, no, I get that. I don't know who my father is. I've never known. I don't know name, nothing. When I was younger and I would ask my mom, she would just get this look on her face and she'd say, I don't remember. And that was the only response I ever got. And it took a while before I realized whatever occurred, whatever happened, was so traumatic for her that she just can't discuss it. And so I finally just said, you know what? I don't need to know. If it's important, she'll remember, she'll remember and she'll tell me. But other than that, I don't need to know. So it quit bothering me a long time ago. But I know for years it would upset me because it was just this hole that I couldn't fill in, there was something. I think the last time I ever asked her about it was when I was in college and I was taking one of the sociology classes I was taking. We had to do a timeline, a family history timeline, like a big tree so to speak. It was like I had multiple stuff all filled in all on one side, and the other side was just blank. I remember my teacher was like, "You didn't finish." I said, "I don't have that information." And she was like, "Well, you could at least put the name down." I said, "I don't have that information, and my mother will not give it to me. So no, there's nothing there. It's a blank." And and so she was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't think it would be painful." She didn't think through the fact that if she assigned something like that, there might be students affected by what they can and can't find out. So I've talked about doing one of those DNA things just to see what mix of stuff I am, to see if maybe there's a clue there.
No,
But
I've done it. Yeah, we're Scottish from on my father's side. We're Scottish. We're of the Napier clan in Scotland. And some about 5 people up from in my family line is John F. Kennedy.
oh, how interesting is that?
And we were looking at the Mott line, MOTT. We've known for a long time that we were related to Lucretia Mott, the suffragette and abolitionist. We've known that. But I found out yesterday that I'm related to James Mott, her husband's line, to Benjamin Franklin. And I'm going,
Wow.
okay, and she was a Folger.
Okay.
And then one night we were in the Hollywood Hills, us as teenagers, driving around. And that was the night the Mansons killed Sharon Tate.
Oh, wow.
It turns out that Abigail Folger is a member of my family. And I was
Oh,
up
wow.
hills that night. And it's
Otherwise, you would
like,
have been there.
well, no,
Oh,
not the age group. We were just kids, but it's just strange that I'm up in the hills while a member of my family is getting slaughtered,
yeah,
and
that's wild.
yeah, Peter's 10th great grandmother is a Spencer.
So
She was
related
raised.
to
She
Princess
was,
Diana.
yeah,
Yeah.
she was raised at Althorp, and yeah.
Well, I know we were always told that we were Welsh, Scots, Irish, English, French, and Cherokee. That's the mix that we've all been told that we are. One of my great aunts was real into history, family historical lines, and she spent years, decades tracing back what she could. There was one arm she traced back to like the 1300s to somewhere in Wales or Scotland. She wasn't sure which. I know one branch is from the Rumseys, which is Irish/Scottish in that area.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also the Formans and the Roberts, I think it was. So that kind of all of that area. And then I don't know how the French got mixed in. And then
Yeah, we don't know who my grandfather is because we know who he was, and we have his name and where he was born and everything. But he doesn't exist before he married my grandmother. There's no records of him.
wow.
So
Well, and back in the day, a lot of times they didn't keep records.
there was the records burned in Butte, Montana. So
Okay.
they don't have the records.
It was like my great great grandmother, I think it was Cherokee. We don't know what tribe, what clan she's from. We just
Mm.
know, according to the story that got passed down in the family, my great grandfather was in West Texas and saw her on the Trail of Tears going to Oklahoma.
Mm.
And so we don't know if it was a purchase. Did her father sell her to this white man who, needed a mother for his kids because his wife had died? Or if they just something clicked and they got, she willingly went with him. We don't know what that is. We do know that we were told we were all blue-eyed blondes until she came along. And that's when the brunettes started. So,
Mm.
but I mean, a lot of Welsh and Scots people are brunette too. So I don't put a lot of stock in that. But yeah, so it's like we know that from my aunt had traced one relative down to the Revolutionary War, because technically we could become members of the Daughters of the American Revolution
Yeah,
because
my
we had an
sister.
ancestor. Yeah, we had an ancestor that could be traced. We could also become uh, members of the Daughters of the Yellow Rose of Texas
Mm.
because we have family traced to the original 300 landowners for Texas that were given
Mm.
the first land rights to have land there. They call them the old 300. Someone in our family was one of those that had one of the original. Of course, we don't know who it is, and you got no land now, but
Yeah, don't lay your claim to it.
It was funny. One time I was very sick, really, really sick. And Peter was at work, and I heard somebody at the front door, and I thought it was Peter coming to check on me. And I heard him come up the stairs, and it turned out it was Benjamin Franklin and it was George Washington.
that's the first time I channeled, and it actually worked. That's who I picked up, was George Washington.
Oh, wow.
I was like,
Yeah,
okay, this
well,
is blowing my
we
mind.
lived in the house in John Blair's house where they used to Jefferson and used to meet,
Yeah,
and it was the original house. And I mean, Benjamin Franklin says she'll be all right. She's gonna be fine. He looked at me and said she'll be fine. Yeah, but I found out yesterday I'm related to him.
Yep.
And so,
that's
you
just
know,
wild. How awesome is
yeah,
that?
yeah, it was like, whoa, okay, maybe he came to check on family or something,
Very well
But
could be. Um,
I'll show you about your mother in
my mother in
that
the
house. Yeah, sure.
house.
Yeah.
There's so many. Oh yeah. My my mom was tired and she wanted to take a nap, so she laid down on the bed and she woke up and there was this woman standing over her, looking at her. And she said she had a pink dress on and she, explained what she looked like. And I said, all right. So I printed out like yeah, she's got macular degeneration, so she didn't see very well. And I printed out 6 pictures of different women of that time period. And I said,
yeah.
okay, Mom, which one was it? Any of these? And she put her finger on Jean Blair's picture and she said it was her. And that was her house.
Oh, wow.
And other
I was wondering
residents.
what she was doing in her bed.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Who are you?
Oh, you don't live here. Oh, yeah, she's you could hear her voices in the front room at night whispering. And one night I was coming down the stairs and Jean Blair stopped me on the stairs and said, "Shh, go back." I was not allowed downstairs to hear what was being said. So it had to do with the Revolutionary War.
Oh, wow. Oh,
You
how
know,
interesting is that?
yeah. So
Very cool.
I wasn't allowed to hear. I thought, why didn't I ever put a tape recorder in there? Darn it.
You don't think about that stuff in the moment.
No.
Now, do y'all actively go and check places if someone asks you or something for
Yeah.
spiritual contact, or if it's
Mm.
haunted, or
We've done some clearances, helped families as well with different things. This can be done remotely as well. Um, uh, Helped certain doctors out who've had patients that have needed assistance, and on one occasion, a few years back now, we actually met up with the doctor and the mother and father, and Carolyn was able to help them, and it was somebody that was actually alive. It wasn't to do with the spirit, but
oh
this
wow,
person who actually lived in another country was very possessive. Um, she was very controlling, and she was trying to control the kids. She didn't like the present person's wife. Obviously, it wasn't her daughter, if you will. So the grandchildren, she didn't think were being brought up properly. So she tried to influence them as much as possible. Well, she was so there was something pretty funny about her, because we think she delved into sort of some magic of some sort,
Dark.
yeah,
dark magic,
Dark.
yeah,
and uh, Carolyn was able to pick this up just by talking to the couple. The kids weren't there, of course, but by talking to this couple, she could pick this up. And so Carolyn had a rosary with her. She said, "Well, next time you speak to your grandma in this other country, before you do it, put the rosary around the bottom of the computer. Your grandma won't be able, she won't be able to see and know what's going on, but Carolyn went and blessed the rosary and said, this is blessed, this will protect you, put it around there. She won't be able to see it, she won't know what's happening, she will not be able to influence the kids. She'll have no power over them whatsoever." And lo and behold, they did that, and we got a report back from the doctor's office to say things are calmed down, things are great, kids are good, there's nothing hinky happening in the house or whatever. So yeah, these things can be done remotely sometimes too.
yeah.
She said, what's changed? What's different?
Yeah.
What's going on?
She knew something was up.
But she
Yeah.
didn't catch on that there was a rosary around it. Yeah. And sometimes it's as simple as that.
Or being given a stone to hold, or a crystal to
Yeah,
hold.
right.
As a
Yeah.
talisman, it's what it means to you. If you feel it's going to protect you, it will.
Yeah,
You
I
have
mean,
the power.
I've picked up stones that just felt like a rock, no big deal, and I've picked up others that the minute I held them in my hand, it was like it felt alive. You could feel the energy off of that stone, off of that crystal. That's kind of wild. The first time that happened to me, I was like, "Whoa!" I can literally feel what's coming off of this. So I try to carry a rock in my pocket. Everybody laughs at me because I'll be digging something out of my pockets at work, and here comes this rock or this crystal out, and they're like, "Why are you carrying a rock in your pocket?" It's like, Oh, well,
You mean you
long
live
story.
in Louisiana and you're asking me
Yeah,
that?
because I live down here in the swamp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you only have to go to a cemetery anywhere and see the stones piled up on the tombstones. You know, there's a
Oh,
reason
I
for that.
love going to old cemeteries and reading the headstones. And I mean, they used to write such prolific things about people
Mm.
and their life
Oh,
or who they were on the headstones. Nowadays, you get a name and date of birth and date of death, and that's it. Um, and of course, down here, most of the graveyards, especially the older ones, are all above ground
but
Mhm.
yeah.
because if you dig a hole to bury somebody, they're going to pop right back up the first time it rains because
Lower.
we're at sea level or lower. So, yeah, but I love going to old cemeteries. Those are cool. They used to give me the EBGBs when I was younger, and I didn't understand why. But now I can go to them and I understand what the energies are, excuse me, that I'm going into. So, excuse me, I'm able to kind of,
Yeah.
steer my way through it.
Yeah,
And
we had a little girl that actually got in our car when we left the cemetery. And I said, no, honey, you can't come home with us. Come on, I'll take you back to your sleeping place. Come on, go with mom and daddy.
yeah,
So I took her back and, but you have the best thing to do before you leave the cemetery is say, no one can follow me.
right,
You know,
absolutely. Yeah,
yeah, you
yeah,
can't come home with me. You can't follow me anywhere. You can't get in my car. Yeah, you have to stay here. But they are very interesting. It was uh, George Washington wasn't is that his first wife that lived in Colonial Williamsburg?
Custis.
Uh-huh. Yeah, George Washington's first wife lived doors down from where we lived,
oh
and
wow,
her first husband and two children that passed are buried in the churchyard here.
oh how
And
cool is that?
yeah, there's a lot of history in that church. A lot. We had our own pew that said Blair. It was the Blair House. Yeah, and it,
Yeah, that's like that down here, especially some of the older churches you go into and you can feel the energy of the people who were there before. It's it's
Mhm.
it's really it's really,
Tangible.
really cool. Um, I guess that's one of the reasons why I like living here, why I stay is frustrated as I get with the politics of it. It's like it's just such a rich environment of all the different peoples that are here and the things that you can pick up on just hanging out. Um,
Mhm.
it's really cool. Um, well, guys, we've been at this an hour and almost 15 minutes now.
Oh,
Time flies when you're getting such interesting stuff y'all talk about. I can sit and talk about it for hours, but I
yeah.
don't want to overextend my welcome and I do
No.
hope you'll come back and maybe next time you do a big hunt or go somewhere new and exotic and pick up new stuff, you can come back and tell us all about it. And
Yeah, we'd love to. Yeah.
but
Yeah. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Sharon.
thank you very much for coming on. I mean, we actually met when Carolyn won a reading from me, a free reading for I
Hmm.
don't even remember now what it was for. That's how we met at the time. And the minute we met, I was like, oh, I like these people. These are cool people. Like all the bells and whistles
They're
went.
crazy.
Yeah, we're
They're my
crazy.
kind of crazy. We speak the same language. Um,
Yeah.
but so I thank you again for coming and sharing your afternoon with me. This has been really interesting. I love hearing about this kind of stuff. And y'all are such a lovely couple. I just absolutely adore you. So I do hope you will come back. You have an open invitation anytime. And thank you to all the people in chat for coming and hanging out with us. Um, sorry, I kind of ignored everybody in chat. I didn't mean to. I was just riveted with what Carolyn and Peter were telling us, and I kind of forgot y'all were there. It wasn't intentional, I assure you. But thank you everybody for coming. And are y'all scheduled to be anywhere else with anyone else anytime soon? Or
Next Tuesday, we're on the Dream Show with Ali Martin.
okay, great.
With Terry and Kelly and Diane as well.
Yeah, all great people.
I believe the 23rd of March. Is it?
No, the 18th of March.
Yeah, we're with Irish Granny again.
Helen is awesome. Is she not just the best?
Yeah,
I love her to death.
We're going to talk about my great aunt Lucretia Mott. She's going to do a special on suffragettes and abolition.
Oh, awesome.
So since I'm related to one of the ladies.
Related to one, yeah. How cool is that? I'll definitely be watching. I will mark that in my calendar for sure. In fact, Helen's going to be on with me next weekend after next. I don't remember. Her and Nath, the clairvoyant. I don't know. He made his own tarot deck. The cards are all they're buried over there somewhere. The cards are all based on like Renaissance type paintings. All of the saints and the angels and stuff from like the Catholic Church, and I guess some other religions too. I'm not sure. And but they're beautiful cards, absolutely gorgeous. And he is just a lovely man. He's down in Portugal, so you have to do some finagling with schedules to try to work it out because that's a completely different time zone. And
6 hours difference, I think.
Yeah. And,
well, not to you, 6 hours to here. So probably 7 or 8 hours difference.
Yeah. If it's 6 hours for y'all, it would be like 7 hours for me because I'm an hour behind you. So I have a hard enough time navigating just our country. And who's in what time zone?
Don't give me another country. I don't know.
Why can't we just all have the same time? It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, let's talk to that groundhog.
There we go. Well, thank you everybody for coming. Thank y'all so much for being my guest today.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed it. And y'all have a great afternoon. And I might sneak on again later tonight, do one of my late night pop-ups. I've started doing those every now and again, like at midnight. If I can't sleep, I'll come online.
Oh gosh, we were on Heather's program last night.
Oh wow. Yeah.
2 hours.
Yeah. She is such a sweetheart. Have you seen her artwork?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Breathtaking. Absolutely. It amazes me how people do that. I can't draw stick people.
No, stick man for me. And it's crooked.
Cash Peters is Picasso next to what my stick people would look like. But well, I will definitely. I didn't realize y'all were on last night. I missed this. I was doing something else last night. I didn't get to see it. But I think I have it saved, so I'll definitely go back and watch it today. And y'all take a nap because I'll probably pop on later tonight. I usually enjoy doing that. Oh, then I'd sit and I'd fuss at everybody and say, "Why aren't you in bed asleep?" It's 1 a.m. What are you doing up?
I'm usually up.
Me too. I'm a night owl. I'm not a morning person at all.
Yeah, me either.
So it's easy to hop on at that time, and it's usually just a handful of people, so it's easier to talk to everybody. Well, thank y'all again. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And we will see everyone soon. I'll be back on tomorrow with Mastering Mental Wellness and the Cool Crone. We're doing a meditation for Ukraine tomorrow. So if you're not busy, come and check us out. You
Definitely
can
have that
meditate.
on
Yeah.
books. Yeah.
Yeah, Colleen started a new visualize what would the world look like if there was no war. Now picture that in your head. How would things look? How would things be? And they've been doing that, but with all the latest stuff going on, she decided to turn the next one into strictly a meditation for Ukraine. So that's what we're going to do tomorrow afternoon. And so everybody have a great day. I keep saying that, and I'm not hanging up. I hate saying goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
So bye, y'all. Have a great weekend.